Like the idea that we're going to use police kind of at scale to crack down on people agitating for peace who are nonviolent, you know, that's the same force of violence that's going to be directed at homeless encampments. Gavin Newsom just made this announcement like right now as we're recording this, you know, and growing numbers of people are going to become homeless in a world of economic nationalism, sorry to say, right? So more of us, the people who like the majority of the population is economically precarious, you know. To be precarious by definition is like you're one medical accident or like, you know, bad business choice away from becoming a homeless person, you know? And the idea that we're going to use the state to fucking expunge that, police that, exploit that uncompensated labor, you know, the same way that in like the MAGA vision, part of this whole women need to go back home and the patriarchy structure is creating a political economy that extracts women's labor uncompensated, domestic labor, right? It's like in a world of like declining growth, the state tries to find other sources of exploitation, you know, for capital. And that's kind of the world that's starting to emerge. So like this is inchoate in my mind. I could probably express it better, but there's this very fucking dark through line that we see from patriarchy, all this Handmaid's Tale fucking dystopia shit.
Trad wife resurgence.
Yep. Targeting people who are weak, targeting people who are marginalized, and exploiting it for your own political power, exploiting it for your own security, exploiting it for profit. It's freaking me the fuck out. I need to take a Xanax or something.
Yeah, it's freaking me out too. This is like such a big conversation that could very easily wormhole. But the one thing I want to say, I think kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier in regard to JD Vance, which is that the scariest part when we see kind of cultural, not backlash, but like kind of returning to old cultural tropes, is that there is like a kernel of truth in kind of the assertions that group makes. Like, so for example, you know, on the one hand, trad wives do get at something when they say, well, now women are expected to not only give birth and heal and raise children, but also bring in half the income and do probably most of the domestic labor if you know.
And that's been an unsustainable kind of situation.
And trad wives are like, well, I don't want to work and let me just do the domestic labor. It's like, well, yeah, working and doing all the domestic labor sucks. Like in theory, you want you know, an equal partner, but statistically, it's not very likely. So it's like, damn, those women do they are getting at something that everyone is struggling with, I think. And I don't think that like what they're doing is good for women or like good for people or society, but that's what makes it so appealing, is like they're right. Like they're right to a certain extent.
Right. And you know, whereas I think our idea is like, what if we had a social safety net where imagine
that
both of you
domestic labor,
both of you
right?
had to work less.
Yeah.